Hello there, and welcome to my arty corner here on YouTube. My name's Angela Porter. I love to draw. I love this kind of drawing, my entangled style, I guess I'd call it, and pen drawing. Excuse me. I do use pencil occasionally for things like the space I want to work within, and sometimes I'll put in a few guidelines into patterns like this one here. And perhaps, I don't think I did that one, I think this one I definitely did. And otherwise, it's just what happens and see where it goes. Very intuitive art. I often have no idea what I'm going to draw until I sit down and draw. And I start with something up here. I started with that flower there. And from that flower, everything else has grown. I was going to say organically in a very random kind of manner, which is probably quite organic-y. I'll have a look at those moments. Firstly, thank you ever so much for all your lovely comments. I've replied to all up to this date, just about. I think there's a couple that came in since I replied to what was there this morning. It is now 20 to 4 in the afternoon on Monday the 13th of February. Hoping to get this video up Monday evening, but I may put it up for tomorrow, depending on how things go and what happens. So, just thank you, and thank you for all the subscriptions and support and sticking with me as I'm going through a very, very, very strange time in life for me. And yeah, well, life is always strange, but every now and again you think, right, okay, great, everything's settled down. And then it's fine for a while, and then everything comes at you like 6 gazillion buses all at once, or a crazy roller coaster ride. You thought you were getting on the kids' ones, and you find it's the super mega one for, I don't know, aliens who don't have any fear. But yeah, so anyway, sorry about the rattle. That was me finding my pens. So I'll have a quick look at these because I do know what I want to do today. I think. Notice I say I think. Always dangerous when I think about what I'm going to do and plan things out. So this is one that I haven't shown you. I think I finished it. I say I think because I'm not entirely sure. There's this section here I'm not quite sure about yet. I filled some sections in of these wobbly lines down here, and I like those, but I think if I fill them all in, there's not going to be any empty-ish space anywhere in this. It was getting a bit much, so I will sit with that one for a while. But there's some really interesting patterns. I like this one here. I've got some ginkgo leaf type shapes in, pretty little flowers, and these kinds of weird mushroomy caps upside down, and seed pods, which, did I echo them across? No, I didn't. Yes, got some down here in those shapes, and then I've used those shapes up here, and you'll see the shape appears in other parts as well, but used in different ways. So I think I mentioned this in my last video, is that I do like to use similar shapes and motifs in a pattern, even though there might be variations. Those variations help, you know, the shapes, the common shapes, help to bring things together, in my mind anyway. Other people may disagree with me, and that's fine, because art isn't really an objective activity either to observe, to look at, or to create. It's very subjective, and so that's fine. I'm learning to deal with such things. And of course, I don't mind being given critiques that are there to help, not to beat somebody down, because that's never very helpful to anybody. Okay, so there's that one. So I think that one's done. It will need colour, but I'm going to scan this in and it's going to get coloured digitally. This is the one that I was working on in the last video, and yet it's on its side, and I'll explain why all of this is on its side and some stuff in a moment. I finished this. I have. I've decided I like the balance of dense pattern in places and these bigger open areas, and that's what's going to happen. Again, I'm going to finish this off digitally with colour and contrast to bring out layers and dimension, and these sections where I am going to fill in with colour, probably I may add very subtle patterns, but I'll do that digitally as well. So quite pleased with that. These were interesting. I didn't expect that to appear, but you know, things happen. And this is one that I've been drawing today. I will turn it this way. So I've got these lovely, almost flowery shapes, but they almost look like they're from a camera lens, you know, the iris on an old-fashioned camera, you know, one that's still got the iris in it and so on. I think my digital camera does. I'm almost positive it does. And because it's a digital SLR, so hasn't used it for ages. It's been a lovely day today, and I could have gone out, but excuse this. I've had a lot of anxiety, stress, fear, upset for a number of weeks, and as it begins to wane, my body reacts. I get extremely tired. I get extremely easily emotional still. I've had a few blips today with some tears, and I'm expecting that. You know, it's not going to drag me down, but it's going to be a rocky ride for a while. But the other thing that always gets affected is my digestive system. So today, I haven't been able to be very far away from the toilet. So, it seems to have settled down, or I've got nothing left inside me to come out, whichever way you look at it. And I shall see. Now, why did I say that? Oh yeah, I could have gone out with my camera because it turned into a beautifully sunny day today. But I didn't. But tomorrow I am going out. I'm going out with my friend, who's an ex-physics teacher, like I'm an ex-science teacher. We both left teaching at just about the same time, within a couple of months of each other. And we've known each other for decades. You know, it's got to be 20, 30 years or more. And, you know, lose contact every now and again, make up. But since we've both left teaching, we fairly regularly, well, before the pandemic, we fairly regularly got together every couple of weeks at least. And, you know, at least once a month, depending on the time of year and what else was going on in her life. And that all stopped when the pandemic came in, and I'm still very nervy about going out. But we are going out tomorrow, together, in the same vehicle. This is a big step for me, I'm telling you now. And I'm quite looking forward to it, but my camera can go with me because I'll be saying, right, I'm going to stop here because I want to take photos. Oh, hang on, photo required. So that'll be going on my other blog, which is Curious Stops and Tea Shops, it's called, but that's a whole different story. I haven't added to that for ages. Anyway, I'm burbling on. So I've been drawing this morning, and I thought I've got an awful lot of motifs and patterns in both this and the other ones that I haven't really shown before, and some I don't remember ever using this one. I'm not quite entirely sure where I got it from, but it's burbled up in my head. I just thought, well, that'll be a nice thing to do. Some others I looked on my Pinterest boards, because I've got quite a few boards to do with tangle patterns or things like that, amongst other things. Pinterest is a nightmare, but I love it. And I collect things there, pictures there, and I often forget I've got them. So I like looking at them and think, oh, that's nice, I'll save that. Yeah, collector of images. So let's have a look. Let's get on with some drawing. I'm going to move my mouse out the way a moment, my mouse mat. I've got a cold cup of tea with me because, well, I'm not really up to much in the way of tea. Oh yeah, the other thing, if the angle of everything looks a bit odd, it's because underneath here, you might see, you can see my reflection here, I am real. Luckily you can't see much of me. This is a writing slope. It's angled at 20 degrees and it actually has a non-slip coating on it. Yet the weird thing is it doesn't feel sticky. So I don't know how that's managed. There must be a very, very super fine kind of texture on the surface. But I'm going to put a piece of white mixed media paper there, just to keep that in place. And what's more, hopefully I have, I'll move it off to which side. That's, yeah, if I do it that side, my arm won't get in the way. I'm going to clip it on with a big bulldog clip. So I've got this space here now. I've got paper on here so that you're not distracted by the background. This is just dot grid paper. I bought a load of it when I was starting to keep records of things in a 6-hole A5 ring binder. So this will be perfect because people have been asking me if I will ever put together or publish my Zibaldone, my visual reference, and I need to redraw a lot of things before I can do that because it's a right mess in places, but this will be a good practice. So I'm going to use an 05 Micron, okay, Pigma Micron 05. I prefer a bolder line, but you are welcome to use whatever shape, whatever size pen you like. So I'm going to start by drawing a vaguely circular shape, and I do mean vaguely circular, it does not have to be perfect. And I am going to draw another circle or circular shape, it could be oval, somewhere inside there. It doesn't have to be in the centre. I've deliberately put this off one side. Okay, then this part here I am going to fill with roundish shapes, and there will be some gaps between them because I'm going to make them different sizes. So I'm sort of ending up with smaller ones in the middle, and I normally would do this the other way round so the middle looks like it's sort of like doming upwards, but I'm putting a lot of smaller ones in the centre here with this one, which will give that illusion that perhaps the middle is sunken. I was going to say sunken treasure, it's not treasure, well it could be if you like these seeds, if these are edible. Which of course they could be because it's a drawing. Could be a weird alien pomegranate. It's not designed to be. So that is basically the central bit, and I'm just going to go around the edge my pen just to darken it a little bit, but also just to neaten it up. And that thicker edge does make it look like this has, you know, we've got an edge here that we're looking into something here. Now to create the iris parts, I'm going to draw curved lines, but to get my curved lines, I'm going to follow around this shape a little bit, and then I'm going to allow the curve to go out to the edge. I'm going to be turning my paper and I will zoom in, hopefully, yay. So I'm going to draw from where this line just took off there, around a little bit and then down. Not a very good line. This pen has been used to draw 2 out of those 3 drawings, and I've just about wrecked the point. So again, from this part, I'm going to follow this down a little bit and around and just keep going. I prefer these sections a little bit closer together. They're getting a bit random in distance apart, but honestly, that's not going to make much of a difference. So as I'm going, I'm just keeping this in one place because I've now got the rhythm of this. And we have this. And that is essentially the basis of it. Let me just zoom out again. Okay, but I don't like having an edge that is just like this. I am going to go back and just go around it, just to darken some areas. I can hear chickens. Somebody's got chickens again. I haven't heard the chickens for ages. There's a family the street below who kept chickens. I'm not sure if the mother died suddenly about a year or so ago, and I don't know if one of the sons has moved in there, or well, perhaps the mother didn't die, perhaps she was just taken really ill. The answer is I don't really know. And there's chickens again. So that's lovely. That'll keep the cats entertained. Well, they do keep them, you know, properly, so the cats can't get at them, but it's like TV for cats. Okay, so all I've done here is where these join, I've just, if I zoom in, can see what I've done, what I'm doing. Where these go around that way, I'm just putting a little bit of ink behind these little bits here. And that little bit of extra weight just helps them to feel connected. Just like that. I like that little bit of contrast that just allows things to just be. I'm just putting a little bit there. Now that would work, as you can't see it, because I've moved myself away. That would work as it was, or as it is, but I'm never very happy with these lines spilling out, or possibly clashing with other things close by. That's my preference. If you like it as it is, carry on, but there are lots of ways of creating a border around them. Now what I did was I created one, and I'm going to do this a little bit different because I'm going to add on this some possibilities of how you could complete or put an extra outside on that would give us a border. So actually that would be quite nice to have 4 of them or 5, you know, sort of like sections around here where the spirals would connect together like this. So you could see how that would happen, which would be quite nice actually. But I'm going to just take this here. I'm going to put a circle there as if to say I've finished that one. This is lovely as it is. I would like to go all the way round as I did with these ones, but you can see what I've done there. But other things you could do, you could put, and I'll take this down to the bottom, like so, a layer of petals, and I'm just going to add some line weight to the left and bottom of each of these. What I like to do, this is mostly just the bottom now, little petals like this, is just put a little line at the bottom, all about the same length. It doesn't matter if they vary a little bit, and that just adds that extra bit of ink here that suggests they go under. So that's a nice way to finish this off. So I'm just put another little circle here like I've done there. I'll put one here so we can carry it around. Something else we could do, I'm going to put a big petal here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a shape like this, and it's almost like I'm creating a letter B but with an extra bump in the middle. And I can add auras inside if I wish, and that would just make something a little bit different there. And of course we could just have something I used yesterday, which is a border that is broken up with beads and little bits. These aren't the only ways that you could add things around the outside. You could put proper petals there, all kinds of things, leaves. And of course I did put leaves on these, and I'll show you how I drew my leaves. And the pattern book I have, I often put motifs together so you can see what's going on. But it gives you ideas, thinking, oh, they look nice together. I like those together, but what about varying it up when I draw it? So I'm going to start here, and I'm going to draw the centre of the leaf first. So to do that, I'm deciding where the top of my leaf is, and I'm just going to draw a very thin, skinny, almost teardrop shape. And that'll be the central vein of my leaf. I'm going to start at the top, and I'm going to draw a lovely curve. So it's just starting to go back to create the S, but we're not going to create the S. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Now they don't have to match up exactly, because in nature, you know, everything is very similar, but not identical. And I'm fine with that. In fact, it was a conversation I had with my older sister. We both said nature You don't find perfectly straight lines and order in nature. Humans want to have flowers growing in nice straight rows and with colours that they think go together, and features in the garden. But if you leave things to nature, nature will populate it with what's needed, and in a way that is just naturally beautiful. So there's one particular kind of leaf. The veins I've drawn from the edge, and I've curved upwards that little bit and then down. And sometimes I'll put a little bit of a bend up at the bottom, so it becomes it becomes an S shape that is like, let's get another piece of paper so I can show you. So this is an S. So for this one, these, I would use a little up and then a little bit down like that. It's a reverse S, but you get the feeling like that. And then as we perhaps need to just do that. Gives the feeling that perhaps this central bit here is just that little bit above everything else. But perfectly straight lines are fine, curved in a different direction is fine. I just try to keep it consistent down the whole of the leaf. Of course, these aren't the only leaves that you can draw. And one of my other favourite ones is quite a rounded curve like this. And then central bit just like that. Again, with these leaves, I'm adding some line weight to the left and bottom, which I haven't done here. With that vein in the middle, I want it to appear that it's sticking upwards, so I'm putting, thickening the line to the left and bottom. And this leaf I will just thicken on this edge to the left and the bottom as well, just to give it that feeling that there's more to it than anything else. I'm having trouble here keeping this in focus. I will get used to it. I will explain what this slope is about in a moment. Okay. And of course, you can have multiple leaves. We could have leaves that are Fluxian in nature. And perhaps ones like this. So those would look nice. We could have flux that is heart-shaped, because that's one of my favourite-y things to do. So we're starting to get this, and I can fill these little gaps in with black. And of course you can have things like, if you want to go more down the Zentangle route, we can have roots like, well, I say roots, poke leaf, which will work. Like so. Filling the little empty bits in with black because they are very small spaces here. And I just think that little bit of black just helps to make sense of the individual leaves and so on. So we've got some poke leaf here. That one's not a very good example of one, but you get the idea. And oh, there was something else that came to mind when I was doing this. Oh yeah. So we'll start by drawing an S shape. Coming back with another S shape. But not back to the beginning, stopping there, and we'll have a leaf that goes off like that. Now this is a Zentangle pattern whose name I can't remember. And I like to put a bit of a spine in, and perhaps a line that goes there and a line that goes there, just to give that feeling that it's alive. It's almost like half an ivy leaf. So that's another one. So there's lots of things we can do with this. Let me just zoom back out. There we go. I haven't finished with all the leaves, have I? Because the ones that I do, that I like, and this is one I was going to do, is I'm going to draw something that looks like a letter J. I'm going to bring this back round and it becomes almost like a lowercase l back there. So from the J we bring the L round and join it back there, and then you see part way up this I'm drawing another J that joins, then gives me this leaf. And I do like to pop in the centre line, but did you notice? I'll zoom in. Yeah, you notice I didn't take it up into this little part here. I followed around mimicking this curve until it touched that line. And then what I'm going to do here is this centre line I'm going to put right in the middle. And this will help with the illusion that this leaf has curled up and round, believe it or not. I'll do that again now I'm zoomed in so you can see. And I'm going to do it in the opposite direction. So I'm going to go around with the letter J. I'm going to come back down like that. Then I'm going to choose where I create the other part of my leaf. This one I'm going to follow this around the middle. It's going to stop somewhere over here. And then this one I'll split in half. These sort of would join together somewhere, and it's good enough. Okay, so we've got a couple of ones like that. So there's a few variations of leaves. There's so many others you could use. This is a favourite where I can just draw. You can't see what I've done. Okay, so I've drawn a line here and I've put a little teardrop shaped leaf on the end, a little stem coming off here, another one coming off there, another one off here. So I'm beginning to branch these just to create a branched out pattern of leaves. Sometimes to correct the shape I'll draw them out from odd places, but then I can start doing this on the other side. Like so. And eventually you can create a whole bush if you like. I'm drawing these really small. I'm not doing this a very great job of this one, but I know that it's a case of branching things out and trying to keep the leaves vaguely growing in the same. Well, it doesn't matter actually, it all works in the end. And so we can have sort of branches of leaves like that, or even, let's go here, we can add fronds of leaves like so. Now I haven't used these in my drawings, but I'm just adding them here as that kind of idea for what you could use instead of. And it actually all looks fun just like that. It's all crazy. Now to me that is just too much difference, too close together. But this is a reference. This is something I would look at for ideas of shapes that might go together, how to do them. And what I have in mind when I look at things like this is varying the size, like this one. It's quite big. I'd prefer them much more when they're smaller. And so on. You can vary the size, you can vary the shape of the leaves. Like here I've got the classic sort of like pointy teardrop shaped leaves, but I could easily change them so that I have more of an oak leaf shape, or an ivy leaf, or anything else. And these you can turn into poke leaf. You just put the pokey bit up there and draw that leaf shape. It works. Honest, it does work. I've done it. So we've got these going on here. So that was this flower in the middle and all of these things around here. Okay. Something else that I used were some seed pods. And these seed pods I grew in a sort of let's grow them downwards from here. So I'm going to start with the central part of my seed pod, which is kind of a leaf shape. And I'm going to put 2 loops round on one side. I think they're called tethered auras in Zentangle speak. And then in the middle, for brevity today, I'm just going to put 1 seed. But normally I'd fill these up with seeds because that's what I like. And I'm also going to thicken that right-hand line in the centre and the left-hand line here. It just helps to give that little hint that we're looking in here and we can see there's some depth here in some way. So then I'm going to draw another one. I'm going to start at the point, put it in, add 2 more tethered auras, like so. Do the same on that side and that side. And then perhaps the next one I'm going to make a little bit smaller. Like so. I'll pop that in there. Again, I'm going to thicken that line and that one. And then for the last one, I got these all going in a single line, but there's nothing to say we can't start to have them going off in different directions. I say the last one. It may not be the last one. Now this one is at a slightly different angle, so this line here would catch light if it's coming from up from this way. So the light would strike this one, but this part would be in shadow. And around here would be in shadow. And then I can just have one going off in a different direction here. And yes, it's a bit bigger, but that's fine, because these lines of seed pods can grow in any size, shape or direction you like. I'll go back to where I put the shadow previously. And then when I've got to the end of my series of them, which I'm going to do with this small one here. Yeah, and I do draw this however I draw it. And then to do these auras, I do go down and bounce back up without taking my pen off. But you do whatever is natural or feels natural and normal and comfortable for you. Then at the bottom of this one, I'm going to pop a little teardrop leaf and perhaps just a little black circle there that it's attached to. And I may just pop a little line in there. Of course, these will work together. You can either, I can put them so they overlap, which is what I'm going to do here. So here's my central bit. This one's going to be tucked behind this leaf. But regardless of where it's tucked, I'm going to do the 2 tethered auras like that. I'll pop this in, thicken that line, and I'll thicken that one as well. And then the next one perhaps can come out like that. Ooh, there's novel, doing the central bit first. And then I can add that one. And then perhaps we can have a different shaped or sized one. And keep on going until you feel you've got to the end of your row. And then as I did here, I'll put that little black dot there and add that. This one, I gave it a longer stem, this one a shorter stem. And I could, and I'm going to show you this here, and just pop one in here. That is perhaps growing from right underneath this leaf. We can't see where it starts, but we know it's there somewhere. Pop that in. I'm going to add one of those little black dots in the middle, and then that gives me almost like a fulcrum point or a joint where I can easily have the other parts or the next one growing in a different direction. And of course, once you start doing this, where you join these together gives you that opportunity to add extra patterns. As simple as, you know, black, white, black beads or seeds. And of course, yes, you can leave a little gap in the black ones, like a little bit of shine and sparkle if you wish. And who says they have to be circular? I've got one there that's like a grain of rice, and I do love seed pods, like so. And then I am going to add this. I think I'll add something a bit different here. I'm going to add a little diamond shape, another little black dot, and then I'm going to add a little leaf that's got 3 lobes because I can. The possibilities here are endless. I've filled these here with single seed. You could fill them entirely with seeds in a perk kind of fashion. I could fill the rest with lines. I could even draw a smaller version of that gap behind the seed and fill it with black, so it looks like there's a hole behind it. And there's all kinds of possibilities. You could even fill, if I draw one, let me have a look. Draw one here. So that's an awkward way to draw one, but it works. You could just put stripes going up and just leave a sparkle in them. Sparkle, little gap where there's no ink. And that then makes it look like it's, this one almost looks like it's bent up. If you do it the other way, then it can look like it's, so instead of having these bending upwards, we'll have them bending downwards. And sometimes if you do this right and how you shade it and so on, it will look like this is going inwards. That's probably if we do it all black, because those central bits will be darker. Don't know, it's how you add the shadow, so I'd put shadow in the middle here. And talking of shadow, let's have a look and see if this will all behave itself. I can hope, can't I? I have that there. Where's the PItt? That might be the PItt artist pen. Yay! PItt graphite in the back. So here with this one, I want these to appear that they're bending upwards. I'm going to put the graphite to the edge, or the shading towards the edge. So I've got like so. With this one, I'm going to put the shading along the centre and then just gently blend it out that little bit so the lightest bits are on the edge. it takes a bit of use getting to that kind of illusion. Here, I definitely have shadow on either side. And because it's such a small space, I don't think I'd want to do anything at all with the actual individual orbs on this one. I'm just putting some shadow at the top and bottom, and I'm just going to soften, smooth out that graphite. And I will put some right down the outside edge, but I'm going to leave a highlight there. And so that simply just gives that kind of illusion. Okay, let me zoom out a moment. Okay. So while I'm doing this, we might as well get on to do all of these. So I'm going to put some graphite in the middle. How long have I done? Gosh, 40 minutes. So I'm making that darkish there. I'm bringing it out to the edge. But you can see that I've left a highlight round here as if it's catching the light. I might put a little bit of darkness underneath this at the top as if these are in shadow just that little bit as well. And I could go back and just take some of this out with a kneadable eraser. I'm going to put some shadow along the bottom to begin with. I'll work out the top here because I think we might need little bits of shadow going around where these overlap, to be honest. Let's have a look and see how this works. Well, this paper is incredibly smooth. Well, smoother than sketchbook paper for sure. And but the graphite actually works quite nicely on it. It spreads a bit further than I would like it to. Just adding some there. But that does work and makes that look like it's got some highlight, and of course a little bit more graphite. We can perhaps enhance that feeling. We've got some volume going on here. Let's find some smaller ones of these. Or at least clean this one off. Oh gosh, I'm using the wrong end. This is the one I used with the charcoal the other day, but that extra blackness may actually work here just to intensify these shadows that little bit. Definitely around the bottoms, some perhaps around there. So that's working quite nicely. Here I'm going to put shadow right underneath here. I'm going to pop some here where it starts to bend under and where it starts to come back round as well. So, okay, let's do this side. So that works quite nicely as well. Alright, these I'd put some shadow at the base of that inner curl and then to the left hand side around the edge here and back up. Okay. Like so. This leaf to this side of the central vein stem, and then I'm putting some graphite towards the edge and where the leaf would go underneath that central motif. So I'll do that on one side. I'm just going to blend this in so it's a bit of a smoother blend. I want to keep a fairly large area as white there. So that gives me that highlight and starts to add that intensity. This is a 2B PItt graphite matte pencil. I prefer one that's got a higher number of B, a softer pencil, because the graphite will be darker. Having said that, the Staedtler ones are much darker and blacker. I have got those here. I think they're the Lumograph Black, I think they're called. Or matte black. So we've got that going on there. And then this central stem, I do want shadow very much on that side. And I'm going to do my best to keep it there because it's a small area and there's some highlights. That's that leaf done. Not so keen on how I've managed to add shadow in these sections. I think I need to adjust the shape a little bit. And that feels a bit better now. That looks a bit more puffed. I've got a puffed leaf. So here I'm putting shadow underneath. We're going to put shadow around the outside here, and of course underneath. A little bit there, and around the outside. I think that may be all right. Let's have a look. There we go, just under there then. Just add a bit on that. And there we've got that all going really quite nicely. Okay, these little ones, I think I'll just put some shadow at the base if I'm going to use shadow. If I'm going to use colour, I'm going to make them darker at the base, though you could make them darker at the top. I'm just going to blend that out at the bottom just to give some contrast going on here, like so. Okie dokes. Here I'm going to add lots of graphite there, and I'm going to add graphite on top of these petals, right underneath there. I'm putting a lot there because I want a really dense shadow right underneath there, just to help to push these petals back as if they really are growing out from beneath that, which that helps doing. These, I've just lost the plot. Let me do these little hearts. I'm going to put shadow at the bottom, and on each side I'm just going to move it towards the top. So we're creating a kind of V shape of shadow, hopefully. It's a lot easier when you've got a thinner tortillon to do that, or paper stump as this is, but you get the idea. So we get that V shadow in the middle, which helps to give us that feeling of this being curved and domed a little bit. These ones, let's put the shadow on one side, to the left. Keep it simple in the bottom on that side. I am just going to fill this like so. Really simple. This leaf, again, I want to get that shadow underneath all of these. I'm going to put graphite down these veins, and I'm also going to put graphite on the left and bottom of this leaf. So I'm going to have shadow around the edges, just a bit. Some here. Now you may be asking, how do I know which side to put these on? Part of it is logic. I'm sticking to the same rule to the left and the bottom. But part of it also is from observational drawings, looking at all of this so I can see what's happening and going on. Okay, by drawing leaves and other things, which I haven't done for a long time, but I tend to work out the rules for doing it, and then I'm able to apply it again. So here, this leaf is sort of underneath this top one. This is sort of being overshadowed here. I'm going to put a bit of shadow there. On either side of the stem will have a bit of shadowing going on. Just a little bit there. Here, there's going to be a lot of shadow just there. I'm going to have shadow here as well, but it's going to be a lot where that little tip of this leaf just comes out. So that works quite nicely. And here there's going to be plenty of shadow there. some there. I'll put some on the bottom part here to see if I like that. May not do it on all the leaves because they're quite small and we can end up with everything all one grey colour, but I'm just going back and adding that little hint of shadow towards the bottom left. And the last bits that I'm going to do are these, which are going to have an awful lot of graphite where they tuck under both those leaves and that motif there. And have some coming down. And let's have a look and see if I blend this one out. I don't like using graphite, as any of you will know. You've seen me often. I find it's very grubby looking. But to go into a Zibaldone, a reference book, I'd find it okay. In fact, I prefer to use graphite on this paper than I would watercolour or alcohol markers. They'd go straight through the watercolour, wreck the paper. It's not meant for that. Felt pens, anything like that. So coloured pencils or graphite would work nicely. I just didn't have any coloured pencils here. Chalk pastels wouldn't, because the paper's too smooth. It just wouldn't pick much up. So there's a few ideas here for you. New one is this one here, really. I really like this motif, to be honest. Just see where I didn't blend some of that out. And that charcoal pencil really does give an intense colour. Well, and that's only what's left on one end. So I hope this gives you some ideas. Okay, I did say I was going to tell you about this slope here. If you know, forgive me, I'm going to go through the story again. If you don't know, you'll find out. Back in November last year, I pulled some muscles, or did some muscular damage between two ribs. And it started where underneath my shoulder blade, or right at the base of my shoulder blade. And then the problem spread around to the front. And although the muscles seem to be fine, I haven't got muscle stiffness, but I've still got a lot of pain, and it gets really painful and stiff if I sit and work on a flat surface as I bend over my work. I have got drawing boards here, and I can adjust the angles on them. But both of them one of them's got a huge lip at the bottom. The other one needs to come off the edge of my table here to get the right angle for me. And it's very big and bulky, and I've got no space to put anything else, like camera. Same's true of the other one. So, in the hopes that having this slope will help me with my back, when I work on my Surface Studio digitally, the screen tilts and I'm able to tilt it to an angle that means that even though I'm holding my arm up and I'm putting a lot of, those muscles are taking a lot of weight and being pulled around, I seem to be able to work there without too much difficulty. So I'm hoping this will work. I got this on Amazon. It was about £20. Lots of choices, lots of different prices for the same thing, as you can imagine. So I went for one that was fairly inexpensive, that apparently was a bit wider than the usual, and it is. I mean, it's wider than A4, I think. Because my A4 paper will fit on here comfortably. Not so much vertically, it goes up to where there's a little groove at the top of the pens, so I can work on A4. And of course, for smaller pieces of paper like A5, like this one, it's perfect. And I'm hoping that will help me work a bit longer and without so much stiffness and pain in the morning, which also could be due to sleeping awkwardly. I woke up on the wrong side of myself. I normally sleep on my right these days, but I woke up and must have turned over in the night on my left. And that doesn't help. It still causes me, it makes the pain worse. That tells me it's not muscular. It must be ligament or tendon, cartilage even, which is fine. There's nothing lasting. Everything heals eventually. It's just going to take its own sweet time to get there. So that's why I have this slope. It's non-slip, so when I put it on my desk, it doesn't move around. The surface even is non-slip, which is brilliant. I clipped the paper here so that the paper wasn't moving around with me as well, because that would have meant not just was I moving this little bit around, I was moving the paper underneath around, and we could end up on the other side of my house drawing, which wouldn't be a good idea because the camera stays where it's put, mostly, unless I knock it. So I hope that makes sense. I do hope that you've enjoyed this, that it's given you some idea, an idea to start your own drawing. It's given you hopefully some new motifs or familiar motifs to use in a different way. And I am going to start putting pages like this together of ideas and motifs, maybe not individual ones, but then that happens, we've got these little leaves up here all on their own, floating around there. Not everything has been shaded in, which is fine by me, because, shade in some and everything else follows. This is a complete one, so it gives you clues for the others. And so let me know if you like this kind of idea, if you'd like to see more of this. Let me know if you'd like me to seriously put together a book of things like this, of patterns and motifs that I use, that hopefully ones that sort of like aren't copyrighted or belong to other people. I can't guarantee that's going to be the case, because when you create patterns or when you look at patterns, a lot of mine will come from architecture and nature, and I've morphed them and altered them. Other people have done the same thing and have got the same kind of shapes and patterns. So it is what it is. It'll be, I guess, an Angela Porter style of things. There's a saying, isn't there? There's nothing unique in art, just the artist's way of putting things together and drawing them. That isn't an exact quote. I think a bit of that was Angela, me. But it's true. There is nothing truly new in art. It's just how people work and display things, and the ideas and shapes and forms and so on, how you put it together. So with that, I'm going to leave you. I'm going to say thank you for joining me. I'm going to carry on drawing this one whilst the video is processing and so on. And I shall see you again very soon. Won't be tomorrow. Tomorrow there will not be a video Tuesday because I am having a day out. And by the time I come back home, I'll be too exhausted to do anything because it involves brunch. And I think my friend has got shops on the list. And I'm not a shopper at the best of times. But we'll see. So until then, take care and find time to be creative. Bye-bye for now. Bye. Hoyle.